You're listening to Mad Men Sports, brought to you by Black Button Distilling. To my left, we have Zach.
How's it going?
To my right, we have Diamond Dave. And myself, Jake. Your 6-2 Bills will be traveling across Lake Erie to face the Cleveland Browns.
2-6 Cleveland Browns.
2-6 Cleveland Browns, stacked with weapons, but what are they doing with it? I don't think they're doing much. Dave, what's going on?
On paper, they're a scary, scary team. Reality, they are not scary at all.
Yeah. And I think Freddie Kitchens kind of has a part to play in that. But we're going to talk about the Bills first here. The Bills signed a defensive lineman, former first-round pick Corey Liuget.
You said it right.
Corey Liuget. I've been practicing. Zach, what do you think about the pickup?
I think it's a really efficient pickup at this point in the season. He was a surprise cut by the Raiders last week, really. He was a stud with the Chargers. I mean, let's be honest. He put up some great numbers. He had 7 sacks with the Chargers. Big signing for the Raiders this offseason. I don't know what's going on there. They've always been a weird bunch over there. So they cut him last week. You know, one man's trash, another man's treasure. We could go from having very little depth at the defensive tackle spot a couple weeks ago to having Vincent Taylor and Corey Liuget. 2 big body guys play the 1 technique, 3 technique. Really shore up that defensive line. And you're going to need it this week going against Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. That's going to be big.
Yeah, especially with Kareem Hunt back. That's just going to add another element to the Browns team. I mean, you know what you have with Nick Chubb. He's a great running back. But that kind of just gives that element of surprise because you don't know what Kareem Hunt's going to give you first game back. Dave, what do you think about Kareem Hunt being back?
I think Kareem Hunt back is kind of scary. He was a monster in Kansas City, then he got in legal trouble, which we all know about. I think the Browns are going to give us a huge dose of him this week. But back to legit, I saw him as a Big Ten player in Illinois. He was a beast. First round pick for when the San Diego Chargers were San Diego. I think the Bills got a steal here. Curious on why he got cut, but no one ever knows what's going on with the Raiders.
Exactly. He's got 24 career sacks. You find a guy at this point in the season that has 24 career sacks and kind of entering either it's the twilight or the cusp of his prime. He's still young. I mean, there was only a second contract, going into it that he got cut from the Raiders.
I love the fact that the Bills are aware of Kareem Hunt being back and the year Chubb's having. And the Bills played chess kind of by getting this defensive tackle in here. And Jordan Phillips is, again, I talked him up like crazy last podcast. Jordan Phillips is playing great. This Taylor guy we got is playing great. Legit's playing great. I think we have the pieces to do okay. I want to see it execute. That's one of many matchups I'm looking forward to seeing this weekend.
Yeah, and it's definitely going to be good because, I mean, in talking about matchups, we do have some injuries for the Browns. So the Browns have been missing Olivier Vernon. He has a knee injury, and he was a do not...
Olivier.
You wanted to say Oliver so bad.
So bad.
Olivier Vernon, I mean,
Olivier.
he was with the Dolphins, and he went to the Giants. Now he's with the Browns. Kind of a late game injury there against the Broncos last week. It's going to benefit the Bills to a fault this week because I don't think he's going to play. I think that really opens up. I mean, now there's one side of the field where there's a huge target, and Olivier Vernon not being out there, you can kind of go opposite of Myles Garrett now without having to worry about a guy of his status being on the field.
Yeah, I mentioned matchups. One of the matchups I'm looking forward to this week is Deion Dawkins versus Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is a defensive MVP candidate right now, and he deserves it. He was, I believe, and don't hold me to this, but a first overall pick a couple years ago, and I think he was.
He was.
Yeah.
And that's a matchup that's going to be good, because if Dawkins is going to want money this offseason and be paid like he deserves, he needs to stop top-tier defensive ends like Myles Garrett.
Yeah, he's got a couple more off-seasons, one more off-season before he gets paid. But, yeah, I mean, he's been playing great this year. The offense line's really stepped up compared to last year. I mean, night and day, honestly, so it's really exciting to see that. This is where if you're Deion Dawkins going against Myles Garrett, this is where you kind of make your money right here.
Yeah, and we look at the Bills side of the ball as well. Not too many injuries. Thankfully, the Bills have been healthy over the past couple weeks.
It's one of their best strengths so far.
It's been the key to the whole season so far, so let's keep it that way.
So the only people who were in limited participation due to injury, Kurt Coleman and Kevin Johnson, which, thankfully, role players, yes, but our solid core of our defense is still together.
Everyone matters, man.
So let's talk about the keys for the Bills to have a successful outing on Sunday. Keys to success, as you will. Zach, what do you think? What do you think the Bills have to accomplish on Sunday to come out with that W?
Listen, you guys said it. High-profile team right here. A lot of star power on offense. The way to mitigate that is get on them early. Come out, take the ball, drive it down the field. Make that defense tired on that first drive. Really put them on their heels. Score so they feel like they have to start passing the ball immediately. They have two running backs that are studs. Listen, they want to make Baker Mayfield the feature of that offense. The way he's been playing this year and the way the other guys have been playing, Nick Chubb should be the feature of that offense 100%. He is a top 10 running back in the league right now. If you're the Bills, you'd want him to have the least amount of impact possible. You got to play him tight, especially with the way it's been playing lately for the run game. You really want to slow them down. You got a guy like Kareem Hunt that's really trying to prove something. He's got, 8 weeks left here to really show out, get another contract next year. This is a big matchup, our run defense versus their run offense. That's a big matchup. You want to get on them early. You really want to shut down that the run offense, and kind of slow down the pace of the game for them to get them to feel like they're on their heels.
Yeah, Dave, what about you?
Listen, this team the Browns are in a must-win situation. They're all pissed off. We've all seen the media talk. We've seen Baker snap at people. We've seen the guy that recently got cut. What's his name, Jake, for the Browns?
James Whitehead.
We've seen all that.
Jeremiah Whitehead.
Browns are in a tough
matter.
position right now where Kitchen's on the hot spot. They're not sure if he's going to finish the season if they don't start winning.
It's too hot in the kitchens.
They're already talking about if they don't have a successful end of the year, Odell's probably out. This is a team that's like their ass is on fire. They got nothing but urgency going on right now. They need to win. So this is kind of a scary game for us. If they're smart, they're watching film. They're seeing Adrian Peterson run all over us like he did last week
in the first
and
half.
They're keeping the hand. They're keeping the ball away from Baker Mayfield and just letting Kareem Hunt, a fresh set of legs on him, run the ball down our throat. The other thing is, this could be a big game for Josh Allen because this is an away game. He usually plays well on the road, and he's got receiver. Bills need to win this game too, and it's another AFC game, and the Bills usually play well against those kind of good teams like this.
Yeah, and let's talk about this as well, which I find interesting. Ed Oliver didn't see a lot of snaps. He only saw 35% snap rate and with 18 snaps. Do you find that as a cause for concern, Zach?
No. They rotate their defensive line. I think when you're trying to stop the rush defense, like get that rush defense going, stop the run, I think you're going to want the bigger bodies in there for now. Ed Oliver's definitely not having the worst years, definitely not being a stud. He's somewhere in the middle. There's a lot of stats that say he's been an elite. There are a lot of stats that, like the snap count stats. He's winning his battles when he has them. So he's having a good year. He's a rookie. He's undersized a little bit. He's going to be able to counteract that with this high motor, high energy guy. I think snap count for our defensive line is going to be wishy-washy all year. It's going to be up, down, over, around, besides maybe Jerry Hughes because it's just consistency.
And I saw this thing on Twitter today. Sorry to cut you off, Dave. If you guys remember last year, the last preseason game, I believe, when they played the Browns, Jarvis Landry kind of knocked Taron Johnson out, kind of injured him off a crackback block.
He did that to Aaron Williams as well.
Exactly. Ended, basically, Aaron Williams' career. So he was kind of asked about that this week, kind of the matchup with Jarvis Landry. And he never reached out to Taron Johnson, make sure he was okay. I mean, this is the second time that where we as Bills fans are super familiar with him doing something like this. How do you think that we're going to kind of receive Jarvis Landry? I mean, do you find him... Because, I mean, he's elite, but... Odell's there too, so what do you think kind of his outlook
I think
will
a
be?
McDermott-led team doesn't even address it. I don't think they even care about it, honestly.
Yeah, that was last year preseason.
I think they're moving on. I think they're fresh
Whatever.
legs. I think he's a scumbag for doing so because it's twice it's happened. But I think McDermott's got a good head on all their shoulders. And can I talk about the Ed Oliver thing real quick that I want to talk about?
Yeah, my apologies.
I think he has played less, and I don't think it has anything to do with him. I think it has everything to do with Jordan Phillips' performance. I think Phillips has outperformed everyone on the defensive line, and he's earned the right to play all those snaps. So Ed Oliver, nothing to worry about. He's got a whole career ahead of him.
Yeah, because I mean, you look at he's played 65% of the snaps Jordan Phillips did. So yeah, his increased role is obviously
And McDermott was
rewarded.
asked that because the media has noticed that Ed Oliver hasn't played much. McDermott said the same exact thing. It's a credit to Jordan Phillips. It's nothing to do with Ed Oliver. So that's a good question.
Interesting. Hey, there we go. Also, I mean, although the Browns are 2-7, 2-6,
2-6.
2-6, they're not to be taken lightly. I mean, they have Odell Beckham Jr., they have Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Baker Mayfield, former
Jarvis
first
Landry,
round.
David Njoku. The list goes on and on.
Yes.
Studs.
Look at
Wyatt Teller.
Yeah, look at these
Hyatt
matchups.
Teller.
We got Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb against Tremaine Edmonds on the linebacker core. We got Jarvis Landry versus Levi Walls. We got Odell versus Trey White, which never played against each other before. This game is going to be filled with matchups. It's going to be awesome. Deion Dawkins versus Myles Garrett. This is like the perfect matchup for the Bills. I want to see how Baker Mayfield does against our good defense. I just want to see how Baker Mayfield does. See if he's as bad as advertised. It's going to be It's actually going to be a fun game to watch for once. A Bills and Browns game is never fun to watch.
Yeah, and Dave, what is your biggest thing to watch out for on the Browns side of the ball? I mean, is it going to be Nick Chubb? Is it going to be OBJ, Baker
For the
Mayfield,
Browns on offense,
or defense? I mean, you got Denzel Ward, you got Myles Garrett.
the thing I'm most worried about is Myles Garrett. I know I've talked about him before. He is very good. I am worried about that. I think Trey White will have Odell under control. I think there's so many hotheads, and I said this in the preseason podcast that we talked about. There's so many hotheads on that offense. This team's waiting to explode, and they're in the cusp of doing so. I think Kareem Hunt's fresh legs for them. That is good, and that is a little scary. But the Bills are addressing their run defense right now. I'm more worried about their defense, the Browns' defense right now. The Browns has a pretty scary pass rush.
Yeah, it's the month of November, and there's a lot of build-up going on for the Browns. I think if the Bills rub them the wrong way, they could explode a little bit. And, I think that would really make a huge difference to the Browns long term because it is November. There's a lot of tension in the air in the locker room. They're 2-6. The Bills come in, rub them the wrong way. Things might, pop for them a little bit.
Yeah, and the weather for Sunday, in regards to
51
the
degrees,
Bills-Browns
so.
game, is 51 degrees. So snow, rain isn't going to really be a factor. Should be a good day for football.
Yeah, I think kind of the biggest thing to watch out for with this game is taking advantage of the lackluster offensive line the Browns have. I mean, you have Nick Chubb, sure, but Baker Mayfield is getting sacked a lot. He's not performing as well as we have thought that he's capable of, so I'm really looking for the Bills' defensive line to expose that offensive line, who, Zach said earlier, Wyatt Teller is starting on that team.
Good for him. Good for Wyatt Teller.
Yeah, good for him. I always liked him with the Bills.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Nice long dreadlocks, hair. Good looking dude.
Listen, so I think when it comes down to it, talent versus culture, this is the matchup that everyone talks about. This is what McDermott doesn't really look for. He wants more of culture guys, where on the flip side of things, the Browns are willing for talent, kind of, Baker's doing this whole Baker being Baker thing. There's a lot of personalities in the locker room, as Dave talks about all the time. I think this game might just come down to coaching at the end of the day. I trust Sean McDermott more than anyone should trust Freddie Kitchens, and I don't even personally know Sean McDermott. But the bottom line here is when it comes down to coaching, we have the better coach by a mile.
He said in an interview today that he's blue collar.
He likes blue collar. Yeah, it was just weird. I love Lamp.
Well, then McDermott, you would love me. Let's get together.
Oh,
As far
Two
as
bald
Freddie,
dudes hanging in a
chilling
hot
at
tub.
the 5 feet apart because they're dudes.
Friends.
as far as Freddie Kitchens goes, I personally don't think he finishes the season as the Browns coach. I think he was an awful hire. I don't remember who their head coach was last year. You know what? It was Hugh Jackson. Browns have had some bad
Who
luck.
also didn't finish the season.
Browns had some bad luck with coaches.
Do you think there's a possibility that Freddie Kitchens could be fired after this week? Do you think that the Bills could be the tipping point?
I mean, we'll talk about that in our predictions, but I do. I think the Browns, again, are a desperate team, but I think they have a win already by having Kareem Hunt back. Kareem Hunt has a lot to prove in this league right now.
Interesting. Did you guys hear about that Baker Mayfield kind of craziness with his beard/mustache?
I actually don't. You guys were talking about it a little before the podcast. You want to educate me?
Was having a handlebar mustache, something.
He came into the game
Okay.
with a full beard.
Go off.
Game starts. He's got a handlebar mustache. End of the game in the press conference, he's got this Uncle Buck mustache going on. The guy shaves 3 times and twice in one day. I mean, What a bizarre feature.
He said he doesn't deserve to have the handlebar mustache, so he shaved it off.
I don't think the guy deserved to be the number one pick.
Is
So
he wrong?
whatever.
Yeah, but putting that much stock in a freaking mustache, that's crazy.
So what do you guys think about Freddie Kitchens? We talked about it a little bit. You guys think he might get fired? Is he in over his head a little bit?
Oh, he definitely is. I mean, you have all that talent, even for an experienced coach, that can be something kind of difficult to reconcile. So, yeah, definitely over his head. First-year head coach. Yeah, I don't know. He doesn't know what he's doing. I don't know what he's doing.
On paper, the Browns have the best team in the league. I will say that better than the Patriots, better than the Chiefs.
All comes down to quarterback.
On paper, the Browns have the best team in the league. So, yes, he's in over his head. He has all these tools. He doesn't know what to do with them. He's got Odell, who's might be one of the best receivers in the league if he actually plays well, if he actually cares. Landry, very underrated receiver. This tight end, I'm not going to try to pronounce his name, is probably top 5 tight end. And Nick Chubb is going to, I mean, he's obviously a top 10 running back. I don't know much about their offensive line, but this team is very good. They don't have a quarterback right now, and I think that's hurting. That's hurting Freddie Kitchens' job because they're losing games because of it. Mayfield gets tackled a lot. He makes a lot of mistakes, and he actually has a lot of fumbles. Watching some of his highlights, he has a lot of fumbles this year. So I think it's all on Baker. Baker's not going anywhere, though. Coaches always take the flack, and coaches always take the blame. So whether Freddie Kitchens is a good coach, I don't know. None of us really know. Freddie Kitchens doesn't know. But his quarterback isn't playing well, so Freddie Kitchens will sit on the dagger.
You got questions for us, Jacob?
Yeah, I guess I do. So, this is Mad Men by the Numbers, sponsored by Prima Pizza. Zach, tell everybody about Prima Pizza.
Open 6 days a week on the corner of West Chippewa and Pearl. You can find them. Go grab a slice. They have like 8 pizzas. You can just grab a different slice of something right there. They got upstairs seating. They have right on the street seating. It's beautiful when it starts snowing soon, because I know we're supposed to get snow tomorrow. Tonight, technically.
Gross.
Buffalo's looks very pretty on Chippewa when it starts snowing. Grab a slice, bundle up, get warm, enjoy some Prima Pizza on lunchtime. Or dinner.
I like that. All right, question number 1 for you guys. Devin Singletary is kind of making a case to be that number 1 back. Does he continue his kind of dominance within the offensive rushing game? My question specifically is, does he keep on pace? Does he get 120 all-purpose yards or more?
I'm going to say no, not this week, only because I don't know the numbers here, but I think Frank Gore is probably 80 yards away from being the 3rd overall running back ever. Is that accurate? It's something like that.
84 yards, I
I
think.
think the
something
Bills
like that.
care about that. I think Frank Gore wants that, and I think he gets it this week. So I think this week Frank Gore is the focus. I think Singletary's used. I do. I'm not saying 120 yards is overall is still a lot. I don't think he gets that because I think Frank Gore breaks that record this week. I think we celebrate it Sunday. I think we all open up some bubbly for him and we move on. I think Frank Gore has a big week this week, not Singletary. And that's fine.
I'd say yes that Singletary gets the 120 yards. I don't think there's much of a question that whether or not he's the number 1 anymore. This guy's going to be the number 1 for the future. It's really exciting to talk about. It's really exciting to think about. Singletary is pretty much going to be the focus of this offense for the next couple weeks, or even until we see Allen really get his feet totally under him. I think Singletary is going to turn out to be a great safety blanket for this offense and a great all this other stuff isn't really working out, but at least we can give it to Motor and he can let Poopy spin,
Heck yeah.
I think he could really open up the offense. I think he's a huge threat in the screen game, which they're starting to use him in. I think he's a huge threat in the running game. I mean, they get involved in the passing game. It's going to help out Josh Allen a lot. It's going to help out the whole team. I think Singletary is probably the best offensive weapon besides John Brown right now, which is good because now you went from having just John Brown to now you have multiple things you can use. You really start opening up the offense, hopefully. You're 6-2. Just win the games at this point.
Yeah, of course. And one more question for you guys as well. You have 2 quarterbacks, 2 young quarterbacks, drafted in the same year, Baker Mayfield and Josh Allen. Josh Allen specifically, a lot of questions about his accuracy over the first year and a half of his career. Baker Mayfield was kind of known for, in theory, being the top quarterback in his class, obviously for him being taken first overall. Gentlemen, who is going to have a more successful game? Baker Mayfield, who seems to be on the decline, but with so many weapons, or Josh Allen, not saying he doesn't have weapons, of course, just not on the caliber as OBJ and Jarvis Landry. Zach, I will have you answer first.
I don't think Mayfield's on the decline. I just think he is what he is at this point. I think he was a guy that took the league by storm, really surprised a couple teams, really surprised himself probably at some point. And I think now it's not just a football thing at this point. I think personalities are getting involved with him. I think he's doing a lot of too many outside football things. It's really bringing down his inside football games. So I think when I talk about who's the most successful quarterback, listen, that breaks it down to what do you want to talk about? You want to talk about like fantasy numbers, yards, touchdowns, stuff like that? It might be Baker Mayfield because his offense is going to rely on him being the playmaker for him because that's kind of what he has to do in order for them to win. But I think in terms of win and losses, I think Josh Allen's going to be the more successful quarterback on Sunday because I think he's a leader. I think people want to follow him into battle. I think Baker Mayfield's slowly slipping away from a leadership role on a team that needs a leader. And I think that's going to be a huge problem for the rest of his career as a Cleveland Brown and even further. So I think in terms of successfulness, I think Josh Allen will have the better day on Sunday.
David.
I think Josh Allen does, and I think it's simple because I think the Browns aren't going to let Baker touch the ball much. I think they're going to be run heavy. I think the Bills do win, even though I predicted them to lose a couple weeks ago. I think the Bills win, and I think Josh Allen's not going to have to do much. I think this is going to be a very strong defensive game for the Bills. And I think Baker Mayfield makes a couple mistakes. I think it's more of the fact that Baker doesn't play well more than Josh playing well.
I think he's very, very fragile right now, Baker Mayfield.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Do you think his ego's about to explode?
I mean, we've all seen the picture at this point. Him in that post-game press conference against the Broncos, I mean, he looked beaten. That's a guy that
You see
like
Macaulay
a
Culkin,
Lindsay
you see
Lohan.
Macaulay Culkin tweet out that he looks like a sticky bandit that tried to.
Yeah, exactly. I saw that. Yeah, he looked pretty rough in that. I'm not gonna lie.
I would go as far as to say Baker probably gets benched at some point this season, just to kind of give him a level head and give him a fresh start for next season.
No, I don't.
If they
For
fire
who?
if they fire Kitchens, I don't know who their backup is.
It's not
'cause
gonna happen.
I don't care that much, but I don't know who.
Whether they fire Kitchens or not, it's not happening. You're
Well,
not benching the first round pick. You might get rid of
It's
him, but
been
you're not
done
getting rid of your
several
number
times,
one
we'll see.
quarterback. Yeah, but it's not happening.
Drew Stanton?
No, it's not happening.
from Michigan State.
It's not happening. We don't have to play into it too much. I think Baker's in trouble, but I don't think it's going to be anything to the point where they're going to bench their number one overall pick for it. It's his second year. I mean, there's problems on that team, but I don't think Baker deserves all of the blame. I think there's a lot of problems in the
Remember
important
before the
parts
season
of the game.
started, the Browns were like predicted to go to the Super Bowl. They were like Vegas favorites. Look how hard they've fallen.
They weren't Vegas favorites so much, but they were definitely talked about often because of the talent. I think in terms of on paper, there's a lot of excitement about teams that have wide receivers and quarterbacks. I think a lot of it is important when you get an offensive line, linebackers. There's a lot of things this team is missing.
He looks like a poor man's Gardner Minshew.
Cleveland Browns are definitely not a fully put together team. That's 100% true.
I think it's 100% coaching with that team right now.
100% as
They
well.
have
I
no
mean, there's a lot
leadership.
of problems on that team. I don't think it starts with Baker Mayfield. It might end with him eventually, but I think there's a lot of things you can get to before you stop Baker Mayfield from playing. Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, he's definitely not sitting this year. I definitely don't think Drew Stanton is any sort of an upgrade from Baker Mayfield. I mean, it's just kind of going to be rough sailing for the Browns until they get things figured out, and that could be with a change at the head coach. But that's not happening this week, so
The worst thing for the Browns and Baker Mayfield right now is that they're going against a 6-2 Buffalo Bills team that feels like they have something to prove, and it's exciting. So I'm really looking forward to that. Buffalo Bills are 6-2, looking to become 7-2. And you know what?
we riding that wave.
I think they're going to be 7-2.
Let's do predictions.
Now let's do it.
What
I
do you
got the
think,
ball
Zach?
right here, giving it away. Still, don't worry.